In this video, you are going to learn about the poem A Vision written by Simon Armitage, the British poet, and we are going to do an analysis of this poem. So if you watch this video till the end, you will understand about the poem, about the author, the context in which it was written, and some major themes, and we will have a final discussion to wind up the class. Before that, I want to thank you for being here with me in this class. And if you don't know me, if you are here for the first time, I am Pradeep Hariharan. I am an assistant professor of English. So this class I have divided into 6 parts. That is how we are going to analyze this poem. These are the 6 ways. We will speak about the author, a very brief discussion. Then we will speak about the context, because whenever we study anything, whether it's a poem or a prose, you know that we have to place that in the context in it was produced, so that we can have a connection and we can learn more about it. Third, we will speak about the central argument. What is the poet trying to convey through this poem? The central argument. Then we will have a rough poem analysis. We will look at it and I'll just try to summarize it in front of you. And we will just discuss about the major themes. And finally, we will have some discussion from the examination point of view. So having said that, just start with the author, Simon Armitage. Who is he? Simon Armitage is regarded as the face of modern British poetry. Why? He is the present poet laureate of English. You know what a poet laureate is, and many of our poets that we have studied been held that post. So you know how prestigious that post is. So he is the present one from 2019, and it is a 10-year appointment. And speaking of Armitage, he is known as a very popular, best loved, and most accessible poet. He is not a kind like what you may call a kind of intellectual guy who doesn't speak. No, on the contrary, he is the opposite, and he is very important poet, a prolific. Apart from being a poet, he is also a TV writer, a radio anchor, and translator. So, moreover, he is a professor. And surprisingly, he also a member of a rock band. So you could imagine just after Dylan, maybe we get a kind of poet who is rock and roll. If you look closely, his works are totally dedicated on 2 things. One, about the modern life. He's a true observer, a watcher of our time. Then about the classical myths, the myths of original England's past. He has 28 collections to his credit till now, at the time of recording this video in 2022. And he has also won the most prestigious Queen's Gold Medal, UK's Queen's Gold Medal for poetry in 2018. Actually, that is an award you win before you are being nominated as a poet laureate. So it was that award that led him to the poet laureate post in the next year. So Vision, written in that particular period, analyzes a contrast between our idealistic hopes and plans for the future, and that are less what you may call perfect reality, most of which fall short of our expectations. So before we go into that part, what do we mean by a vision? How can a vision be distinguished from a dream? All of us have dreams, hopes. Vision is something big, something greater that you set. And sometimes, a vision may not be seen in a man's life. It takes generations to achieve a vision. So here, in 2008, the poet is looking at a picture which paints about a modern city life with a lot of what you may call modern structures, cars, everything planned like utopia, and how everything crashed down. So he's also having a look at it and asking us, what is our place in such a dreamland? You must have seen many such planned cities, pictures of such planned cities, and where do we stand? He says a word. We are close to the bottle banks. Bottle banks is a place where you throw away all your wasted bottles. So this poem can be called as a realistic, a pessimistic, or a cynic view of life, presents the view of the other, that is, the rich people, the ultra rich people who lead a different life. And if you look at that, it has got five stanzas. Each stanza has got four lines, and it presents the view of a builder, an architect, and the last stanza concludes everything, just like a sonnet fashion. You have seen a sonnet will be discussing a theme, and at the end of the couplet, it will sum up. Similarly, this poem also sums up the central idea and tells us what is reality for a common man. Common man's life doesn't change. He has no role in the big vision of the higher scheme of things. Okay, in this part, we are going to have an analysis, a summary of the poem. Before that, I want to acknowledge the source. It's taken from the bestpoems.website, from Poems Encyclopedia. This poem becomes a part of the collection known as Tyrannosaurus Rex versus the Corduroy Kid. Tyrannosaurus means the dinosaur versus the Corduroy Kid. It was published in 2008. It's a collection of poems, and you can see a vision by Simon Armitage. So, as you can see, it's a five stanza poem with four lines, very simple lines written in free verse with no complexity, and it is very easy to understand. So it starts by saying that the future was a beautiful place one. It's not saying is, it was, because towards the end of the stanza, you understand, I pulled out that future out of the north wind. So you have to reach that point to understand what he's trying to say. So future was once a beautiful place. Future was a beautiful place once. When the author says something that was predicted as future, it never happened. So it is not the future that happened. Okay. So then he speaks about, describes a picture of a dream city that he saw, and what were the things promised as the future and what happened. So there was a kind of a reality that strikes us at the end of the poem. But more importantly, the poet wants us to think about what is the role of an ordinary man in such a dream. Okay, such a vision. Where do we find our place? Are we always outside their vision? Let's see. So remember the full-blown Blazawood town on public display in the Civic Hall. You can imagine, you have seen such dream cities pictures in many halls. And how all those beautiful pictures, the ring-bound sketches, artist impressions, blueprints of smoked glass and tubular steel, everything look pristine, everything look so beautiful, aesthetic. It's a utopia, it happens only. And there are places for board game suburbs, modes of transportation like fairground rides or executive toys, cities like dreams, cantilevered by light. So ultimately, this is a kind of dream that never happens to anyone. Okay, but sometimes that's the kind of dreams which we fall for. Then, and people like us at the bottle bank. So that word was the striking one. The bottle bank, as I told you, is a place where they throw away the waste bottles next to the cycle path or a dog walking. So we are not in the picture. Over the tended stripes of fussy felt grass, or the model drivers motoring home in. So ultimately, all these dream cities, they happen in a regular city. So we are outside. That's what the poet is trying to say. And they lead a different kind of life. And remember, that's true with many of the cities in the world. Then electric cars. And after the late show, strolling the boulevard, there were the plans. From that day onwards, that line onwards, he's trying to strike the reality. All underwritten in the neat left hand of architects, a true legible script. So ultimately, the poet says the architect or the builder or these people were selling a vision which never happened, and it's never going to happen. And how does he conclude the poem? I pulled that future out of the north wind at the landfill site. That is where the pain of the poet comes. Just like Philip Larkin, just like Wordsworth, he is aware that many of the sites are filled with mud, filled with soil to construct buildings. and that is causing nature's disaster. So a vision, when they create a vision for somebody of a few rich, it ultimately killed the vision of so many ordinary people. So the landfill site stamped with today's date, riding the air with other such futures. So ultimately, this is not the only picture that he is carrying. He is having other such pictures. So ultimately, we don't know who the speaker is. That is what I told you at the beginning. We don't know the narrator is. Narrator may be a worker who lost a job. We don't know. And remember the poem, Wordsworth poem, The Daffodils, in which he was worried about how the industrialization are happening, how the people are moving from the village to the city. So, and all unlived in and now fully extinct. So ultimately, a vision is what is real for the ordinary people stands in the same manner. It doesn't change, and all such fuzzy futures, it also does not happen. So a vision of an architect or some certain capitalist, that will only destroy the land, and it does no good to common people. Now we come to the final part where we are going to discuss about major themes and discussions. If you have watched till now, I wish to salute you because you are such a serious student, and thank you for staying up to this point. So what are the major 4 themes discussed by the poet? Let's see. As I told you, this poem is an attack. It speaks about the futility of certain unrealistic dreams. And last 10 or 20 years, you must have certainly experienced or seen in your life many of such glorious plans never realized, and people lost a lot of money in investing in such projects. And another thing is that it is an attack on capitalism. Most of these projects are only meant for a certain people, meant for rich people. It's not for ordinary people. It's not based on our day-to-day realities. What do we want? And most of the visions, as I told you, not for people's realistic point of view. And more importantly, the poem also speaks about the kind of paradise England was, which was lost. He speaks about the issue of this global warming, this modern crisis that happened back in 2008 itself. So to sum up, we speak of the discussion. We spoke about the form and tone. It's free verse, 5 stanza, 4 lines. There is no rhyming pattern. So in short, we can say that this poem, though it's very short piece, it becomes a powerful weapon. It really voices a poet concern about how people, certain people, a group of people are spoiling a larger vision of an ordinary man. So thank you very much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this class, please do like. And if you have any valuable comments, some ways of improving, please do suggest, because I'm a newcomer to YouTube. And thank you. I'll see you in another video.